Hi everybody, Sarah Fletcher here from Hillsborough Baptist for week 4 of our Mental Health Mondays. Over the past 3 weeks, we've covered a few different areas just to help us feel mentally healthier. In our first week, we talked about abiding in God and about having just a healthy schedule and plan for our lives. Week number 2, we talked about things like eating well and exercise and getting lots of rest, just things like that physically help us feel good. But like we said, our physical health, mental health, emotional, spiritual health, they're so closely connected, we can't separate them. So as you work on your physical health, it also improves your mental health. Last week we talked about how to change our thinking. Most specifically, we talked about learning to have an attitude of gratitude, to see the good things in life as opposed to the negative things and the challenging things. Focus on the blessings that you have. Today I want to talk a little bit more about challenging or changing the way that we think. I want to talk to you about something called cognitive distortions. Another word you might hear for that is thinking traps or stinking thinking. Maybe that's a term that you've heard. The idea is that there are ways that we think that are just inaccurate perceptions of what's going on around us or of ourselves or of the world. They are biased and inaccurate perceptions of the world. So we need to challenge those, because usually those biases come from harmful, negative places. And we need to learn to see the world in a more accurate perspective. So there's a few different types of common cognitive distortions that people have. I'm not going to talk about all of them today. Depending on whose research you look at, you can find anywhere between 10 and 20 different types of cognitive distortions. I'm not going to cover all of them. I'm just going to talk briefly about a few of them, and then most importantly, I want to talk to you a little bit about how to challenge this way of thinking, how to challenge your stinking thinking so you can feel more positive and have more hope and joy in your life. The reason this is important is because the feelings that we have come from the thoughts that we have. You don't feel anything without first having a thought about what you've experienced or about what might happen. Our feelings come from our thoughts. So when my thoughts are negative focused, I'm going to feel some sort of a negative emotion. So for example, if I walk by a friend of mine and, maybe we pass each other in a hallway and I say hi and they don't say hi back, how I feel about that depends on what my thoughts were. If my thought was, oh, you know what, they probably didn't hear me, then I'm going to feel fine. I'll just feel like, oh, it's too bad that I didn't get to stop and talk to them, but that's okay. If my thought is, oh, they must be mad at me, then chances are I'm going to feel a little bit more worried about it and just spend my day wondering about what I've done wrong. If I say hi and they don't respond and my thought is, oh, they don't even like me, I thought we were friends, they don't even like me, now I'm going to feel sad and worried and perhaps anxious. So I hope that just helps you see how the feelings that we have come from the thoughts that we have. So like I said, I want to take a quick look at a few different cognitive distortions. The first one that I want to mention is fortune telling. Now, I don't know about you, but I am not a fortune teller. We don't have the gift to tell the future, but sometimes we act like we do. And here's the problem. Usually when we try to predict the future or tell the future, we focus on something negative. Oh, you know what? This bad thing's probably going to happen. Yeah, well, it could go there and do that, but what's the point? It's not going to work anyway. Or why try to learn that? I wouldn't be any good at it. Right? We look ahead in the future, we predict bad things that are going to happen instead of thinking about the good things that could happen and the hope that we could have and the success that we could have and the fun that we could have. Folks, you don't know the future. I don't know the future. Let's just wait for the future to happen. Live in the moment. Take each day as it comes. Another cognitive distortion is mind reading. Once again, I'm not a mind reader, but there's lots of times I find in our lives where we act as if we're mind readers. Like that example I gave at the start of passing someone in the hall and saying hi and them not responding. We so quickly start to make assumptions about why that interaction happened the way that it did. We read the other person's mind, right? Or maybe you're out somewhere and somebody looks at you and you start thinking about, what are they thinking of me? But you don't just leave it blank, like, well, I wonder what they're thinking. You start to come up with what they might be thinking. Oh, they're judging me, they don't like the way that I look, they don't like me, they think whatever it might be. And again, usually when we do this distortion of mind reading, we do it negatively. It's very rare that we think, oh, they're probably thinking something nice of me, or I think they probably really like me, right? We're expecting the worst. And again, when we do that, our feelings are going to be negative. We might feel sad or worried. Next cognitive distortion that I want to talk about is emotional reasoning. So this thought process is when I feel something and then therefore I think it must be true. So if I feel it, it must be true. Instead of being able to say to yourself, just because I feel it, it doesn't make it true. And that's an important thing to be able to say to yourselves. You know, when we go on emotional reasoning, we miss out on a lot of things in life. We feel like maybe people won't like us, so we don't go somewhere. We don't feel like getting up and exercising, so we don't exercise. We don't feel like going to bed on time, so we stay up late, right? Those are just examples of feelings that we might have that drive us to do things that maybe aren't in our best interest. We need to be able to look at our feelings and ask ourselves, is this accurate, or is this just a feeling that I need to push through? The last one that I want to mention today is a mental filter. So a lot of us have this cognitive distortion of a mental filter. And what that means is there's certain things that we kind of allow to filter into our lives, and there's certain things that we keep out. So I always picture it like a sieve that I would use when I've been cooking. And after I'm done cooking and I go to dump the liquid out of whatever it is that I've just cooked, the liquid all drains through the sieve, and then I'm left with the things that I want to keep. Well, in our minds, we have the ability to do this. But what we often do is the things that we allow through the filter and when we allow in our heads, those are the negative things. We tend to allow in the negative and we keep out the positive. Why do we do that? Why do I allow in the thoughts of not being good enough, or feeling like people might not like me, or feeling like I failed at something, or feeling like I wouldn't be able to do something? Why do I allow those negative thoughts in? Why not allow in the positive thoughts? The promises of God even that says that He's always with us and that He will help us, and by the power of His Holy Spirit we can do all things. Folks, we need to allow in the good. Stop filtering out the positive and allowing in the negative. Switch that, right? Filter in the positive. It's really important to take the time to work through these cognitive distortions. When we don't, it leads to a lot of feelings of depression and anxiety, being worried, just feeling sometimes like we're not good enough, so having low self-esteem. We need to be really aware of the way we're allowing ourselves to think. I would encourage you, if you're interested in these cognitive distortions, go online. I don't always recommend Google, but there is some great information there about cognitive distortions, so you can have a better understanding of them and how they affect our lives. I just want to leave you with a little bit of information about how to help challenge these cognitive distortions. So what I want you to do when you find yourself having any of these thoughts that are inaccurate or untrue, I want you to ask yourself, is this thought that I'm having, is there any proof for it? What is the evidence that shows me that this thought is true? Is there any evidence? So again, for example, if I feel like a friend is upset with me, is there any actual evidence for it? Not just evidence that they didn't say hi, because that's not evidence of anything. Any actual evidence? Have they said that they're upset with you? Right? What is the evidence? The second thing I want you to ask yourself is, what would someone else say to you? So if you shared with someone else what you're thinking and feeling about a situation, or what your worry is, or whatever that process is, if you shared that with someone else, what would they say to you? Would they encourage you? Would they say, no, you know what, you're probably right. The person probably is thinking that, or yeah, you probably should do that. Think about what kind of good advice you'd get from other people. Does it line up with what you're thinking, or does it not line up with it? Even more important than that is, what does God's word say? Does it line up with what you're thinking and feeling? Or does it contradict what God says about who you are and about His plan for you? The other question I want you to ask yourself when you're having certain thoughts and thinking a certain way, ask yourself this question: is there any other possible explanation for why such a thing happened? Don't assume why it happened. Don't pretend to be a fortune teller or a mind reader, right? Are there other possible explanations? Don't get just focused in on one thing. Look at other possible explanations until you actually do get any evidence or proof to the contrary of what you thought. Folks, I hope that you can continue to challenge the thoughts that you're having so that you can live a life more full of hope and joy. I want to leave you with a verse today. It This is Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. And Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Folks, I would encourage you today, challenge these cognitive distortions, challenge this stinking thinking. Do it in His power. Come to Jesus. He will help you to challenge the thoughts that you have. Folks, might you rest in Him. I hope that you all have a great week, and I'll see you again next Monday. Take care.